But in truth, it was a prison, a slaughterhouse. Under Leopold's rule, the Congolese were enslaved in their own land, forced into the forests to extract rubber, the so-called white gold of Europe's industrial greed. Villages were raided, families torn apart, women violated, children dragged into forced labor. And when the impossible rubber quotas were not met, the punishment was not just death. It was terror so cruel it scars history itself. They cut off hands. Yes, hands. Soldiers carried baskets of severed human hands as proof that their bullets were not wasted. A child's tiny hand hacked off in front of their crying mother. A father's hand chopped away while his family watched. Hands of men, women, and even babies piled up like trophies of horror. Can you imagine the level of evil it takes to make mutilation an official policy? And Europe dared to call this civilization. Civilization? No. It was barbarism of the highest order. Even animals are not treated like this. This was not governance. This was organized butchery, legalized sadism, industrial-scale dehumanization. Historians estimate that between 10 and 15 million Congolese lives were destroyed in less than 3 decades. 10 million. Entire villages wiped out. Whole generations erased. Congo became a graveyard of unspoken screams, a land soaked in blood and tears, all to satisfy the greed of one European king sitting comfortably in his palace in Brussels. And yet, the same Europe that sanctioned this massacre still dares to preach morality to Africa today. They speak of democracy, human rights, and rule of law. But where were those values when Congolese children's hands were being chopped off? Where was their humanity when mothers watched their babies mutilated for failing to pick enough rubber? They rewrite history to present Leopold as a modernizer, a builder.
Please, I beg you, share this video.
The world pretends it was their discovery. The Black News family. And what I'm about to tell you honestly left me speechless. Because this story right here shows how our knowledge, African knowledge, has been stolen, repackaged, and sold back to the world as a discovery. Let's rewind to 1856. A British explorer named Sir Richard Burton traveled to Somalia. There, Somali nomads told him something that, if he'd listened, could have changed medical history. They explained that malaria was transmitted by mosquitoes. But Burton refused to believe them. To him, that was just superstition. He brushed it off, because how could Africans possibly know something he didn't, right? Fast forward to 1902, almost half a century later. Another Brit, Donald Ross, wins the Nobel Prize for discovering that malaria is transmitted by mosquitoes. A global celebration followed. Europe called it a revolution in science. But let's be honest, Ross didn't discover anything new. He simply confirmed what Africans had already known for generations. Personally, I find that shocking and painful, because it's not just about malaria. It's about a long pattern of erasure. African wisdom has been mocked, ignored, and then, when repeated by Europeans, celebrated as genius. It's the same story over and over again. Even the name malaria comes from a European mistake. They believed the disease came from bad air or malaria. Meanwhile, Africans had already identified the true cause, mosquitoes. So when people talk about discoveries, we have to ask, who's really discovering and who's just taking credit? This story isn't just about science. It's about truth, respect, and the rewriting of history. And honestly, I think it's time we start giving credit where it's long overdue. Because African knowledge didn't just inspire the world, it built it. If this story moved you even a little, don't just scroll like it to keep the truth alive. Comment your thoughts and share it with someone who still believes Africa only followed history, when in fact we wrote it first. I'm your brother Vernon, the nationalist.
School that was shut down for being too good. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, while segregation was still the law of the land, one black public school in Washington, D.C. was quietly outperforming nearly every school in the country. White or black, it was called Paul Laurence Dunbar High School. Founded in 1870, Dunbar produced generations of high-achieving black scholars, many of whom went on to become doctors, engineers, professors, and even federal judges. Students were held to rigorous academic standards and taught by highly qualified black educators, many of them with advanced degrees from Ivy League schools. By the 1950s, Dunbar students were scoring higher on standardized tests than their white counterparts in neighboring schools and sent 80% of its students to college. So what happened? Desegregation. Instead of replicating Dunbar's model, the education system dismantled it. The school's leadership was removed, resources were slashed, and the curriculum was gutted, and slowly Dunbar's legacy was buried. Why? Because black excellence, especially in education, was seen as a threat to the status quo, not an opportunity to elevate the nation. This wasn't just neglect, it was intentional. If you believe this story deserves to be remembered and taught, write it in the comments.
Only to watch them be sold off. This is what white supremacy under slavery looked like. In the 17th century, white slave owners on Barbados had a cold plan, forcing black women to breed with them to increase their wealth. This wasn't about sex, it was forced labor. One black woman shared, "We were lined up, 6 girls crying with no way out. The slave owners stood before us controlling our fate. We couldn't resist, only obey. The slave owners never cared about us. We were tools for reproduction. And after they left, white overseers took over, doing the same thing. For them, we weren't human. We were livestock. They believed mixed-race children would make stronger laborers, so they treated us like animals, erasing all records of our existence. Imagine being forced to create life, only to watch it be sold off. This wasn't just history. It was colonial rape and
Something is not right. Melissa is just the cover-up of something major danger. It been said that a legendary creature has been woken, and the US government found out, and their next move is nuclear bombing this creature. It has been said that Jamaica, the island, is at the head of this serpent. The serpent is in the deep depths of the ocean, and it can be the doom of us all. No guns, no nothing can kill this creature that man made. Only God alone can put this creature to eternal rest. This creature been sleeping under the depths of the ocean for many years now, before even the continents and islands was actually made on the world map. So, the continent and the islands are actually made on most of Leviathan's body. We Jamaican is on the head of this creature, and they're planning to sacrifice the 8 million people in Jamaica so they can live to tell the tale. Do you notice every day 5 to 6 helicopters above high of ground in the sky patrolling Jamaica? Because you're looking for any sudden movement and sudden changes. Because Leviathan does exist and it's real. People, it's a doomsday. It's a doomsday for us all if this creature is actually awakened. May God help us all.
Guys, want to know
This black-owned island since the 1800s. Here's why. Off the coast of South Carolina, Dafusky Island became a sanctuary, a self-governing black paradise where Gullah Geechee people, descendants of West Africans, preserved their language, food, and culture in freedom. No bridges, no outsiders, just their own schools, their own farms, their own laws. Sally Ann Robinson, born on the island in the 1950s, became its living memory. A chef and historian, she fought to preserve their traditions with every recipe and story. But now developers are circling. They call it progress. They call it gentrification. What's really happening? Gullah families who've held this land for generations are being pushed out. Their heritage is being priced out. Their paradise is being stolen, again. Why is every black paradise treated like a mistake? Why is every place we build for ourselves seen as a problem to be solved? Does this story break your heart or fire you up? Comment heart or angry below. Share this everywhere. Before this island only exists in history books.
First time in history I'm being told. And like I said before, at my age, living close by is the first I am seeing this. And I was telling the driver that I might be coming this side, Deacon Pusey, that I might be coming this side. I heard about this morning to catch some water. My God Almighty, people, look at this coming out of the mountain. And again, I said to the people out in Content that the water is coming from the mountain at Pickle Pepper Factory. And this proved my point. Because this is almost the same mountain. So it looked like now the time has come for NWC to check this out so we can have water constantly. Look at these people. If this continue for a month more or over into there will be no road, completely cut off this side. We will